Hi there. Today I'm going to show you what MBA admissions directors are looking for in your applications. I bet you're familiar with some of the things that they look for, but I may surprise you with one section. Most people are familiar with business school applications and think that they fall down into two major categories. There's work experience and there's academic qualifications. On the work experience side, it's pretty typical of candidates to think that they need to have work experience before they go on for an MBA, and that certainly is helpful and a requirement at many MBA programs. But as important as the quantity of work experience is, the quality of work experience also matters. And then on the academic side of the application, you have two major credentials that admissions officers are looking for. You're looking at the test scores and then also the undergraduate grades. There's a balance between each of these sides of the application, and then within each side, there's somewhat of a balance between the two smaller pieces. Now, everybody's kind of familiar with this. If you've been an applicant to business school before, or if you've been researching applying to an MBA program recently, you've probably come to learn that this is what the landscape looks like. But today I'm going to tell you about the third major component, and this is something that is not often discussed, but it's a very important part of your application. Indeed, the entire application rests on three areas. I'm going to show you them now. There's fit, there's passion, and there's communication. Underlying the entire application is a focus on assessing a candidate's fit, passion, and communication. If a candidate cannot clearly communicate why they want to be at that particular business school and how their career will benefit from that experience, then they may not be admissible. If you have a passion that comes through in the admissions process for someplace other than that specific school, an admissions director may give you the opportunity to go explore your passions elsewhere. And if you show that you're not a good fit for the culture of the school, or if you try to squeeze yourself into a program that isn't really the right one for you, it'll become clear to the admissions director, and the admissions committee may indeed decide not to offer you admission. So even though we typically look at academic side and professional side of an MBA application, you can't overlook the importance of fit with the school, passion for the program, and communication. If you can clearly put those three things into your application, and you also have competitive credentials on the professional and academic side, you have a much better chance of gaining admission to the school of your choice. Now I'm going to walk through each of these characteristics and show you what credentials the admissions committee has available to them to determine your fit, passion, communication, and these other areas. To determine how well you communicate, an admissions committee will be looking at a variety of things. Obviously, you interact with the admissions office regularly. That interaction, the emails, the telephone calls, that could come into play in an admissions decision. Your written essay is the obvious choice for assessing communication skills, but I'll tell you that it's just one of many. And some admissions committee members at different schools believe that because the admissions essay is something that's not done under a timed or controlled environment, that it has less reliability. In fact, you should have had other people take a look at your essay to make sure that they thought you did a good job. So the written essay is a big part of the communication, but schools that have admissions interviews will use the interview as a significant screening tool for your communication abilities. But they'll also use the test scores on your GMAT verbal, the GMAT analytical writing section. Those will come into play. And if you're an international student, each section of the TOEFL or IELTS exam, or the Pearson test of English if you're taking that one, each section has its own score, and admissions committees will break down the TOEFL scores or the test scores and look at the individual components to see if you were strong, for example, in listening and speaking, but weak in writing and reading. Each school has a little different way that they interpret those scores, but that's a very important part of assessing your ability to communicate. Your passion, this one comes out very clearly in your essays and in your interview. In your interview, you need to make sure that you're conveying to the interviewer that that particular business school is the one you want to be at, that your passion in life starts with being passionate about that particular business school. If you can't make a compelling case why that's the best choice for you, then you're hurting your application in general. Fit comes out in several areas. It can come out partly on the transcripts. If a particular business school has a heavy quantitative focus, or perhaps a more social science focus, your transcripts may show that you're a better fit for one type of program or another. But this comes out a lot in the interview as well. What do you want in life? What can we help you with, we being the business school, and how can we help you achieve that? The fit is a big and important question. It'll also come out in the references, because if a school is looking, for example, for a lot of teamwork history or certain things in the professional background, that may actually come out on the resume. So you see, the fit, passion, and communication aspects of your application can be measured by multiple admissions credentials, and you need to be careful about all of those pieces, not just the test scores, not just the resumes. Now, the academic side of the house, of course, this comes down to the test scores and the transcripts. Those are pretty self-explanatory, but I'll mention that the admissions committee is looking at more than just your grades, your overall GPA, and what school did you go to. Of course, they look at what major did you study, but they're looking for trends too. They'll look at how well you performed over a 4-year period. Did you start with low grades and then work your way up to stronger grades? Did your performance start high and stay that way throughout the 4 years? Or perhaps you started high and dropped by the time you graduated. Maybe you had a single semester that was weak and the rest were strong. Anyway, the admissions committee will assess many facets of your undergraduate performance, down to looking at specific courses that they care about or specific courses that don't match the rest of your history or performance. On the test side, the GMAT is, of course, the de facto standard for MBA admissions, and that'll be broken down into the quantitative side and the verbal side. The admissions committee is going to look at how well your test scores compare with your other performance indicators like the grades. If you did well in quantitative coursework, but then you didn't do well on the quant side of the GMAT, they'll want to know why. And that may be a topic of discussion for you in the interview. Now, on the professional side of your application, this comes basically down to your resume. It may come up in conversation in the interview as well. Here's how. The quantity of work experience is very well articulated on your resume. Put everything on there that you think is relevant. If you would use this resume to search for a job, it's essentially the right resume to submit for your job application, or at least your MBA application. However, when looking at the quality of experience, you may be asked questions about the kinds of projects you worked on. You may be asked questions about the kinds of work that you've done in the interview. And this is an opportunity. If you think the quality of your work experience is subject to scrutiny by the admissions committee, in the interview, you have an opportunity to make the case that your quality of work experience is higher than it may seem on paper, and you can explain that. So bring the interview into play for academic side, for professional side, and of course to show your fit, passion, and communication for a particular school. If you do all these things and you can show a balanced portfolio that focuses on the desires of a particular school, then you're far more likely to earn admission to that school, and you'll have earned the right to make a choice about whether you go there or not. Until you do all these things, it's the school's right to choose whether you get the opportunity or not. Good luck on your applications.